Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Thought Channel. Tonight we'll be exploring the fascinating science of happiness. It's not just a simple feeling in the way that many people think, but a living process that your mind and body build together. It can rise with a laugh and linger after kindness. It can start with a good night's sleep, become elevated after moving your body and giving your attention to. Something meaningful can extend its duration for days. Happiness follows rhythms, habits, and the ways we interpret what happens to us. It can be shaped by friendship, by purpose, by gratitude, and by the stories you tell yourself about your own life. It can even be influenced by your surroundings, your senses, and the simple relief of feeling safe enough to exhale. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here to one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, let your shoulders soften, allow your breathing to slow, and let your mind gently unwind as we drift into happiness together. Let's begin. People who savor moments feel happier than people who rush past them. Savoring is the art of letting a good moment land. It can be as small as noticing warm tea, a breeze, or a friend's laugh, and staying with it for a few extra seconds. This matters because the brain is quick to move on, especially when it is trained to scan for the next task. Savoring slows that reflex. It strengthens memory for positive experiences, and it builds a richer sense that life contains goodness. There are many ways to savor. You can share the moment with someone, which can amplify it. You can describe it out loud, which makes it more vivid. You can take a mental snapshot and return to it later. Savoring is attention with appreciation. It is also a form of protection. When you savor, you give your mind something nourishing to hold, so stress has less empty space to fill. Rushing is not always avoidable, yet savoring can happen inside a rush. It can be one breath, one glance, one quiet recognition. Those small pauses can change a whole day. A daily walk can improve mood even without intense exercise. You do not need a gym or a dramatic workout to shift your state. A steady daily walk can work like a mood tune-up, partly because it changes what your attention touches. You leave the same room, the same chair, the same mental grooves. Your eyes stop tracking motion, distance, and landmarks, and your mind often follows into a less cramped space. Walking also creates a gentle rise and fall in the body that can release restlessness. Many people notice that thoughts feel less sticky when the legs are moving. Some of the benefit comes from light exposure, especially showing your brain that the day has started. A walk can also become a ritual for connection. Call a friend, walk with a neighbor, or simply greet the same familiar faces. Over time, a walk stops being exercise and becomes a daily reset button you can press almost anywhere. People often mispredict what will make them happy, even with big choices. Humans are strong planners and shaky fortune tellers. When imagining the future, we tend to zoom in on one feature and ignore the rest of life that will still be there. Psychologists call this focalism, and it can make a new job, a move, or a purchase seem like it will change everything. Another trap is impact bias, where we overestimate how intense and how long our feelings will last. We pick to the peak, not the routine. We also forget how good we are at coping when setbacks happen. People often adapt faster than they expect with help from friends, habits, and humor. This does not mean choices do not matter. It means your mind can exaggerate their emotional power. A useful question is not only will I like it, it is what will an ordinary Tuesday feel like. Happiness is not one emotion. It is many systems working together. What we call happiness is more like an orchestra than a single note. Pleasure involves reward learning and dopamine signaling. Contentment leans on calming systems that regulate stress and slow the body down. Pride draws on memory, social comparison, and the sense of progress. Connection relies on bonding chemistry and the ability to read other people's faces and voices. Even the immune system can influence mood through inflammation signals that change energy and motivation. This is why happiness can feel different on different days. Sometimes it is bright and lively. Sometimes it is quiet relief. It also explains why quick fixes can disappoint. If only one system is nudged, the rest may stay out of tune. When sleep, movement, relationships, and meaning line up, the whole orchestra tends to play more smoothly. This view is hopeful. It means there are many doors into feeling better, not just one. Acts of generosity can feel more rewarding than spending money on yourself. When people choose to give, brain imaging studies often show increased activity in regions linked to reward and motivation. It is sometimes called a helper's high. The experience can feel warm, energized, and strangely steady. Researchers have also found that spending money on others tends to produce more happiness than spending the same amount on yourself, even when the gift is small. Part of the effect is social. Giving creates a story of who you are, and it strengthens connection with the person receiving it. Part is biological. Acts of care can trigger the release of chemicals linked to bonding and safety, which can reduce stress. Helping does not need grand gestures. Carrying a bag, sending a thoughtful note, or tutoring a neighbor can all count. The key is that it feels chosen, meaningful, and real. Joy likes to travel along pathways that link people together. Dopamine is more about wanting than liking, and happiness needs both. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, yet it is closer to a pursuit chemical. It helps tag something as worth chasing, then it energizes focus and effort to get it. That is why cravings can feel urgent, even when the thing you crave does not bring deep satisfaction. In experiments, dopamine spikes often appear around anticipation, learning, and prediction. The brain is updating its map of what might be rewarding. Liking is different. It involves the warm satisfaction of the experience itself, which depends on other systems. When wanting is high and liking is low, you can get stuck. You keep reaching for the next hit, the next snack, the next scroll, while feeling strangely empty afterward. Understanding this split can be liberating. You can ask, do I truly enjoy this, or am I only chasing it? That question can steer you toward activities that are fulfilling, not only compelling. Sunlight helps set body clocks, and stable rhythms support better mood. Your brain keeps time with a master clock that listens closely to light. Morning brightness tells it when to start the day's chemistry, including hormones that shape alertness and sleepiness. When that timing drifts, mood can drift with it. Many people notice this in winter, when darker mornings and shorter days can bring sluggishness or gloom. Light therapy is used for seasonal patterns because targeted brightness can help reset timing. Even outside of winter, irregular schedules can confuse the clock. Late nights, indoor days, and bright screens at midnight can push the system off beat. Stable rhythms can feel like an invisible scaffold. Meals come at predictable times, sleep arrives more easily, and energy does not crash as hard. You do not need perfect routines. A simple habit of stepping into daylight early can help anchor the whole day, and the mind often follows. Music can trigger chills, a pleasure response shared across many cultures. Those shivers that race up the arms during a powerful song are not random. They often happen when the brain detects a meaningful pattern, like a sudden harmony, a rising melody, or a perfectly timed pause. Researchers sometimes call this free song, and it is linked to reward pathways that respond to prediction and surprise. Music sets up expectations, then it plays with them. When it resolves tension in just the right way, the body answers with goosebumps, a lifted chest, and a rush of emotion. What is remarkable is how widely this happens. People across cultures report chills even when the style of music differs. It can also occur with film scores, chanting, and crowd singing. Part of the power comes from social meaning. A song can carry identity, memory, and belonging. In that moment, sound becomes more than sound. It becomes a bridge between pattern and feeling. Strong relationships predict long-term happiness better than money alone. One of the clearest messages from decades of well-being research is that close connection matters deeply. A famous example is the Harvard study of adult development, which has followed participants for many years and repeatedly found that relationship quality is strongly tied to health and life satisfaction. It is not about knowing thousands of people. It is about having someone you can call when life breaks open and having someone who feels safe to be yourself with. Money can reduce stress when it covers essentials. With that, its power often shifts toward comfort, rather than contentment. Relationships work differently. They shed daily emotion, they create meaning, and they buffer stress when things go wrong. They can also push you toward healthier choices, like seeing a doctor or going for a walk. If happiness were a house, close relationships would be the foundation. Many other good things sit on top of it, but the base holds. Anticipation can be as joyful as the event you are waiting for. Sometimes the happiest part of a vacation is the week before it starts. Your mind rehearses the scenes, and the body responds as if a little slice of the future has arrived early. This is one reason planning can feel rewarding. You are not only organizing logistics, you are tasting possibility. Anticipation can also stretch time. Countdown gives shape to the days, and shape can be comforting. It creates a sense of forward motion. There is a fascinating twist, though. Anticipation can amplify both joy and anxiety, depending on the story you tell about what is coming. The same quickened heartbeat can mean I cannot handle this, or I am ready. People can learn to steer anticipation toward hope by making plans concrete and manageable. Choose one small detail to look forward to and make it real. The brain loves a future it can picture clearly. Sharing good news boosts happiness more when someone responds enthusiastically. A personal win can feel twice as bright when you tell it to someone who lights up with you. Psychologists call this active constructive responding. It means the listener asks questions, celebrates sincerely, and stays present with the moment. That response does more than flatter you. It strengthens the bond between you, and bonds are emotional fuel. It also helps your brain store the experience as meaningful. When someone mirrors your excitement, the memory becomes richer, and you are more likely to savor it later. The opposite is also true. A dismissive response can shrink the moment even if the news was objectively good. This is why everyday happiness often depends on small conversations. It is not only what happens to you, it is how it lands in your relationships. If you want more joy in a group practice, being the person who celebrates, well, you are building a culture of good moments that can be shared safely. A sense of control matters more for happiness than perfect outcomes. People can tolerate a surprising amount of difficulty when they feel they have choices. When control is taken away, even small problems can feel crushing. Classic studies in psychology show that perceived control changes stress responses and it changes motivation. Consider two identical workloads. If one person chooses the order and pace, it often feels more manageable. If another person is constantly interrupted and directed the same work, it can feel like drowning. Control is also tied to hope because it creates the belief that actions matter. This is why clear plans can be calming. Even when the plan is simple, you are telling your nervous system that you can steer. Control does not mean forcing life into perfection. It means having levers to pull, like choosing when to rest, when to ask for help, and what you will focus on today. If you feel stuck, look for a small, controllable action. Even a tiny lever can restore dignity and lift mood. Regular movement can raise mood by changing information and brain chemicals. Exercise is often described as a mental reset, and biology backs that up. Moving your muscles sends signals that influence stress regulation, energy use, and immune activity. Over time, physical activity can reduce certain markers of inflammation, which is important because inflammation is linked with lower mood in many people. Movement also affects brain chemistry. It can increase the availability of substances involved in motivation and calm, and it can support growth factors that help brain cells stay flexible. The change is not only chemical, it is also psychological. You feel progress in your body, and that can become an acquired form of confidence. The most surprising part is how small the dose can be. A brisk walk, a short dance in the kitchen, or a few flights of stairs can shift state in minutes. You are not only burning energy, you are sending your brain a message that you can act, adapt, and move forward. Commuting time strongly predicts daily happiness, especially when it feels wasted. A commute is not just travel, it is a daily tax on attention, energy, and time. Long commutes can shrink sleep, reduce exercise, and leave less room for family and friends. They can also create a sense of life being spent in limbo, especially when the trip is unpredictable. Uncertainty is stressful because the brain cannot plan. 10-minute delay can feel larger when you do not know if it will be 10 or 50. Commuting can also shape identity. If you start every day with congestion and noise, you may arrive at work already tired and irritable. If the same commute can feel different when it has meaning, a train ride with a book, a podcast you love, or a ritual of music can turn dead time into chosen time. If changing the route is possible, it can be a life upgrade that rivals a raise. Sometimes happiness is not about more, it is about fewer hours lost. Smiling at strangers can increase happiness, especially when they smile back. A brief smile can be a tiny social bridge. It signals friendliness and safety, and it invites a response. When someone smiles back, your brain receives quick proof that the world contains goodwill. That proof can lift mood not because life is suddenly perfect, but because belonging has been confirmed in a small way. Smiling can also change how you feel about yourself. You become someone who offers warmth. That identity can matter on days when you feel disconnected. Not every smile will be returned, and that is fine. People may be distracted, shy, or having a hard day. The goal is not approval. The goal is a small act of openness. In many places, strangers avoid eye contact, so a friendly smile can feel surprisingly powerful. It can soften the atmosphere of a train, a hallway, or a shop. Over time, these micro-connections can make a city feel less cold. Happiness often grows from tiny moments of human recognition. Happiness can spread through social networks, even among friends of friends. Researchers have tracked this ripple in long-running community data where one person's uplift predicted small boosts in people they did not directly know. The effect is not magic, it is behavior. When someone becomes more upbeat, they tend to reach out more, offer more help, and invite more shared time. Those social moments create chances for laughter, support, and new plans. Even posture and tone of voice can be copied without anyone noticing. Digital life can carry the same pattern. In one large online experiment, changing the emotional flavor of posts, people saw shifted the words they later used. It is a reminder that mood is not sealed inside the skull. It can move through a group, like weather moving through a valley. Deep conversations often leave people happier than small talk predicts. Many people assume that deeper talk will feel awkward, yet studies suggest the opposite. When researchers prompted strangers to ask more meaningful questions, participants often reported feeling closer and more satisfied afterward. The surprise is how quickly depth can appear. He can start with a simple shift from "what do you do" to "what has been teaching you lately." Depth does not require confession. It requires sincerity and attention. When someone tells the truth about what matters to them, the listener gets a clearer map of a real human life. That clarity can be soothing because it reduces the sense that everyone is alone behind polite masks. There is also a practical benefit. Deeper talk can reveal shared values, which makes future interactions easier and warmer. Small talk has a role, especially as a doorway. Depth is what many people are quietly hoping for. When it arrives, it can feel like a breath you did not know you were holding. A simple smile can nudge mood partly through body feedback loops. Your face is not only a display, it can also be a signal back to your brain. In facial feedback research, adopting expressions can subtly shift emotional experience, as if the body is reporting what is happening. The effect is not huge, and it does not override real grief or fear, but it can tilt the dial. One striking line of evidence comes from studies of cosmetic procedures that reduce framing. Some findings suggest that when certain muscles are less able to form a strong skull, people report fewer negative feelings over time. Smiles can also change social outcomes. A genuine smile invites warmth from others, and that response can improve mood in return. There is a difference between forcing a grin and letting the expression match a small, real appreciation. Think of it as a loop. The face shapes the mind shapes the face, and the people around you respond to both. The vagus nerve links calm breathing with a calmer emotional state. Imagine a single communication cable that runs from your brainstem down through your chest and into your abdomen. That is the vagus nerve, and it carries signals in both directions. It helps regulate heart rate, digestion, and the shift between alertness and rest. When vague activity is strong, the body can apply a kind of internal brake, slowing the heart and reducing stress arousal. This is why calm breathing, humming, and relaxed social connection can change how you feel. The vagus nerve is also tied to the social engagement system. It influences facial muscles, voice tone, and the ability to listen without feeling threatened. That means calm can be contagious. A steady voice can help another nervous system settle, and your own body often responds to that steadiness too. Researchers sometimes measure vagal function through heart rate variability, which reflects flexible regulation, not constant calm. The goal is not to feel peaceful all the time. It is to have a nervous system that can return to baseline. Slow breathing can lower heart rate and soften the stress response. When you slow your breath, you give the body a clear signal that danger is not immediate. One key mechanism is the barrelflex, a pressure-sensing system that helps regulate blood pressure and heart rate. Longer exhales often encourage the heart to slow, which many people feel as a settling in the chest. Slow breathing can also change carbon dioxide levels in a way that reduces the feeling of air hunger, which can feed panic. A simple approach is to breathing for a count of 4, then breathe out for a count of 6. The numbers can vary, but the longer exhale is the point you are not forcing car. You are inviting it through physiology. This technique is used in performance training therapy and meditation because it is portable and fast. It also pairs well with a phrase you repeat, like in steady and out release. Over time, your body learns the pattern and responds more quickly. Warm temperatures can increase pro-social behavior, especially in small groups. Warmth is more than a physical sensation. It can shape how social we feel. Studies in social psychology have found connections between physical warmth and interpersonal warmth, including greater generosity or friendliness in sudden DB situations. One reason may be early life learning. For babies, warmth and care often arrive together, so the brain links heat with safety. There are also everyday cues. A warm room can reduce physical discomfort, and comfort makes patience easier. In small groups, warmth can support relaxed conversation. People linger longer, faces soften, and conflict can feel less sharp. This does not mean heat automatically makes everyone kind. Extreme heat can increase irritability and aggression, especially when people feel trapped or dehydrated. The sweet spot is mild comfort, not sweltering stress. The practical takeaway is simple. If you want a social moment to go better, consider the environment. Comfortable temperature water and a sense of ease can make it easier for the best parts of people to show up. Sometimes happiness begins with basic comfort. Meaning and purpose can sustain happiness even during difficult seasons. Pleasure is wonderful, but it is not always available. Purpose can be when people feel their life has direction. They often report greater well-being, even in the presence of stress. Psychologists sometimes describe this as eudaimonic well, being a form tied to values, growth, and contribution. Purpose can make effort feel worthwhile, which changes how the brain appraises hardship. He can also organize choices like a compass that reduces decision fatigue. There are studies linking a strong sense of purpose with better health outcomes. And longer life, though, cause and effect can be complex. Stories from history and clinical work echo the same theme. Viktor Frankl wrote about meaning as a refuge when circumstances were brutal and uncontrollable. Purpose does not require fame. It can be raising a child, caring for elders, building a craft, or serving a community. When pleasure fades, meaning can keep the lights on. Laughter can synchronize breathing and heart rhythms between close companions. Watch two friends laughing in the same room, and you can almost see their bodies falling into step. Exhales come in bursts, pauses line up, and soon both people are breathing in a similar pattern. That shared rhythm can nudge the heart to follow, because breathing and heart rate are linked through the nervous system. It is one reason laughter can feel like relief that arrives all at once. In groups, it can spread quickly. One person starts, another catches it, and suddenly the room has one shared temper. Researchers studying conversation have found that laughter often appears at the same moments for both speaker and listener. It is not only a reaction, it is a social signal that says we are safe together. Even after the joke is forgotten, the body can carry a softer, steadier calm. A warm memory can calm stress chemistry. As if danger has passed, you can be sitting in a perfectly ordinary chair, yet one small recollection can change your whole body. Think of the time you felt protected, understood, or deeply welcomed. When that memory becomes vivid, your brain often shifts out of threat mode. Stress hormones can ease, muscles may loosen, and attention stops scanning for problems. This is not imagination playing pretend. Memory is one of the brain's strongest tools for prediction. If your nervous system senses familiar safety, it can lower the volume on alarm signals. Therapists sometimes use this on purpose, guiding people to recall supportive moments before approaching painful topics. It gives the body a stable foothold. There is also a reason. Smells and songs can trigger comfort so quickly, they can pull up scenes with rich detail. The past is not happening again, but your physiology can still respond to the message you made it through. Saying thank you out loud strengthens relationships more than silent appreciation. Appreciation that stays inside your head cannot do its full job when you say it out loud. It becomes a gift that the other person can actually receive. Spoken thanks also teaches people what matters to you, which makes them more likely to repeat caring actions. It is not manipulation. It is clarity. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making dinner. Thank you for being patient with me. These phrases can feel small, yet they build a climate where care is noticed instead of taken for granted. Speaking gratitude also changes your own attention. You start looking for things worth thanking, and that search reshapes perception out loud. Gratitude can be especially powerful during conflict because it reminds both people that the relationship contains more than the argument. It creates a moment of softness where repair can happen. Silent appreciation can be real, but spoken appreciation becomes relational. It turns private warmth into shared strength. Novelty boosts happiness briefly, which is why surprises feel so bright. Newness turns on attention like a lamp. When something is unfamiliar, your brain treats it as important, so it releases chemicals that sharpen focus and energize curiosity. That is why the first bite of a new dish can feel electric, or why visiting a new street can make the world look freshly painted. The glow is often short-lived because the brain is efficient. Once the pattern becomes familiar, it stops paying the same reward for noticing it. This is why repeated treats can lose their sparkle even when the treat is still good. The trick is not chasing endless novelty. It is learning how to create small pockets of it. Take a different route, learn a new chord, cook one unfamiliar ingredient. Tiny changes can wake up attention, and attention is one of the main gateways to feeling alive. Nature time can lower rumination, which often fuels anxiety and gloom. Rumination is the mind's habit of replaying worries like a stuck song. It can feel like problem solving, yet it often circles the same thoughts without relief. Time in natural settings has been linked to lower rumination, and the effect can show up even after a short walk. One reason may be attention. Cities demand constant filtering of noise, traffic, and signs. Nature offers softer patterns that hold interest without forcing alertness. Another reason is movement. Walking outdoors often combines light exercise with fresh sensory input, which can interrupt mental loops. Some brain imaging work has found changes in regions tied to self-focused thought after time in nature. You do not need a wilderness expedition. A park, a tree-lined street, or a patch of water can be enough to shift the mind. If your thoughts feel loud, try giving your senses a new job. Notice wind, birds, and changing light, and let your brain rest from its own echoes. Your brain treats social rejection like pain, and joy can soothe it when people are excluded. Brain scans often show activity in regions that also respond during physical hurt. That overlap helps explain why being left out can feel sharp and urgent even when nothing touches the skin. The body prepares for danger. Heart rate changes, stress chemistry rises, and attention locks onto the threat of losing connection. Yet the same wiring that makes rejection sting also makes belonging deeply calming. A kind message can lower attention, fast shared laughter can loosen the grip of threat signals. Even recalling a supportive friend can soften the body's alarm response. Some studies have found that common pain relief, taken safely and as directed, can reduce the ache of social pain in certain settings. Connection is not a luxury your nervous system treats it like shelter. Gratitude can shift attention toward what is safe, steady, and supportive. Your brain is built to notice problems quickly because missing a danger used to be costly. Gratitude practices work like a counterweight. They train attention to register what is working, what is reliable, and who is showing up for you. In studies where people regularly wrote down what they appreciated, many reported improved mood and more satisfaction with daily life. Some also showed better sleep quality, partly because bedtime thoughts became less combative. This shift is not pretending everything is perfect, it is widening the spotlight. When you notice support, you are more likely to return it. That can strengthen relationships, which then become more real support in the future. Gratitude can also change how you interpret stress. A hard day still feels hard, but it sits beside evidence that you are not alone. Forgiveness can reduce stress hormones, even when the past is unchanged. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as pretending nothing happened. In reality, it can be a decision to stop carrying the injury as a daily burden. When anger stays switched on, the body can behave as if danger is still present. Stress hormones rise, sleep can suffer, and attention keeps returning to the same scene. Forgiveness can change that pattern, not by rewriting history, but by freeing your nervous system from constant readiness. Some studies linked forgiving attitudes with lower stress markers and better health outcomes. The process is usually fragile. It may involve naming what was lost, setting boundaries, and choosing not to rehearse revenge stories. Forgiveness can also be selective. You can forgive without reconciling, and you can release bitterness while still protecting yourself. The surprising part is that forgiveness can be an act of self-care. It is not letting someone off the hook. It is taking your own life back from the hook. Storytelling can lift mood because narratives make meaning from chaos. A story is a tool for turning raw events into something the mind can carry. When life feels messy, a narrative gives its shape. There is a beginning, a turning point, and a direction. This is why people often feel better after they talk something through. They are not only sharing facts, they are building meaning. Research on expressive writing shows that putting experiences into words can improve well-being for some people, especially when the writing connects events to growth or insight. Stories also create connection. When someone tells you what they went through, you stop guessing and start understanding. Even fiction can help because it lets you rehearse emotions and choices in a safe space. Bedtime stories work for children party because they bring order to the day. Adults are not so different. If you want to change your mood, try telling the day as a story with a compassionate narrator. What was hard, what was learned, what was survived. Meaning is not pretending. Meaning is organizing. People adapt to luxury faster than they expect, which dulls its joy. The first time you sleep on an ultra-soft mattress, it can feel like a revelation. A few weeks later, it feels normal. This is hedonic adaptation, and it is one reason new purchases lose their sparkle. The brain is always updating its baseline because constant amazement would be exhausting. Luxury becomes background, and attention shifts to what is missing again. This does not mean comfort is bad. It means comfort alone is not a reliable happiness strategy. People often overestimate how long a new car, a bigger home, or an upgraded gadget will lift their mood. Meanwhile, they underestimate how much joy can come from things that do not adapt so quickly, like relationships, purpose learning, and shared experiences. There is a practical way to work with adaptation. Add spacing and variety. Use special items occasionally, not constantly. Create small rituals around them. The brain rewards contrast, and it notices change. When everything is upgraded all the time, there is no contrast left to feel. After good or bad events, many people drift back toward a personal baseline. There is a reason new thrills can fade and old heartbreak can soften. The brain is an adapting machine, always updating what counts as normal. Psychologists describe a hedonic treadmill where big changes shift mood, then the system recalibrates. After a raise, the extra comfort becomes expected. After a setback, new routines form and the sharpest edge dulls. This return is not the same for everyone, and it is not a promise that pain disappears. It is a pattern seen across many studies with wide individual differences. Genetics, habits, and social support all appear to shape the baseline and the speed of rebound. Understanding adaptation can be empowering. It suggests that chasing constant peaks is a tiring plan. Building daily conditions that support well-being can matter more than hunting for a single life-changing moment. Sleep loss makes the brain react more strongly to everyday problems. After a short night, small annoyances can start to feel personal and heavy. Part of the reason is that tired brains struggle to regulate emotion. Studies using brain imaging have shown that when people are sleep-deprived, regions involved in threat detection can become more reactive. Meanwhile, the systems that usually help with control and perspective do not perform as smoothly. The result can feel like living with thinner emotional skin. A mild criticism stings more, a minor delay feels like an insult. Even good news can feel strangely flat because reward processing can also change with fatigue. The world does not get harsher, but your internal filters do. This is why sleep is often described as emotional first aid. One solid night can restore patience and creativity, and it can make problems look solvable again. Rest does not erase life. It gives you better tools for meeting it, or can shrink the feeling of self and make worries feel smaller. When people stand beneath a vast night sky or watch a rocket climb into cloud, something curious often happens. The inner narrator that usually fills every quiet space can step back, researchers describe, or as a state that makes the self feel less central. That shift can change what problems feel like. A deadline still exists, but it stops feeling like the whole universe, or also seems to increase a sense of connection, not only to nature, but to other people and to time itself in experiments, or can make people more generous and more willing to help strangers. It can also expand how much time people feel they have, which is a surprising emotional gift. You can invite all on purpose. Visit a museum, learn about deep ocean creatures, or watch footage from space. The point is scale. When your mind meets something larger than you expected, perspective quietly returns. Time feels faster when happy because attention stops monitoring discomfort. Think about a day that felt light and absorbing. Hours can vanish, and then you look up and feel surprised by the clock. Part of this is attention. When you are uneasy, your brain keeps checking your body and your surroundings for signs of trouble. That monitoring stretches time because every moment is inspected. When you feel okay, the brain relaxes its grip. Attention can move outward into what you are doing, and the internal stopwatch quiets. This is one reason boring waiting feels endless while a good conversation feels short. It is also why pain can slow time. Your mind is tracking the sensation, searching for an escape route. Happiness does not make time objectively faster, yet it changes how it is measured from the inside. There is a practical lesson here. If you want a day to feel fuller, add moments of mindful noticing. If you want a hard hour to pass, add engagement, connection, or purposeful activity. Mind wandering tends to lower happiness when it drifts into worry. Your mind is built to travel. It runs simulations, replays conversations, and tries to predict what comes next. That ability can be useful, yet it has a downside. When the mind wanders into worry, happiness often drops even if nothing bad is happening in the present. Researchers have found that people report lower mood when their attention is away from what they are doing, especially when it lands on unpleasant topics. The present moment may be a cup of tea, but the mind is busy rehearsing loss. The body responds as if the imagined situation is real. Heart rate changes, shoulders tighten, and the day becomes heavier. The goal is not to stop thought forever. The goal is to notice the drift early. Simple anchors help, like feeling your feet on the floor, naming sounds in the room, or returning to the next step of what you are doing. Attention is a steering wheel. You can learn to hold it with more kindness and less panic. Learning a skill creates pride, which can outlast the original effort. There is a special kind of happiness that arrives after practice. It is not the burst of buying something new. It is the slow warmth of realizing you can do something you could not do before. Learning reshapes the brain, strengthening connections through repetition, feedback, and rest. This is why early attempts feel clumsy. Then one day your hands move with less thinking. Pride from skill building can last because it changes identity. You become someone who can that matters in quiet ways, like feeling more capable in other areas of life. It also gives you a source of flow by time slips away because challenge and ability match. Skills can be tiny. Learn to juggle 2 balls, cook 1 reliable meal, or identify a few constellations. Each one is a small proof that growth is still available to you. The effort may be temporary, but the confidence can stay. Even better, skills often become social. You share them, teach them, or use them to connect, and that deepens the reward. Kindness to yourself predicts resilience better than harsh self-criticism. Many people believe that being tough on themselves is the only path to improvement. Yet research on self-compassion suggests a different story. When people respond to mistakes with warmth and accountability, they are often more likely to try again. Harsh self-criticism can feel motivating in the moment, but it can also trigger threat responses like shame and avoidance. If your brain thinks it is under attack, it focuses on protection, not growth. Self-kindness is not making excuses. It is speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love while still telling the truth. It sounds like this hurts, and I can learn from it. That tone can keep you engaged instead of collapsing. Resilience is not never falling apart. It is returning again and again with enough care to rebuild. If you want to test this, notice your inner voice. After a small mistake, try 1 kinder sentence, then watch whether it makes you more willing to take the next step. Touch can release bonding hormones, which quietly reinforce safety and ease. Human skin is packed with receptors that send messages straight into emotional circuits. A supportive hand on the shoulder can communicate safety faster than words. Gentle touch can trigger the release of oxytocin, a hormone linked with bonding and trust. It can also reduce stress responses, lowering the body's readiness for conflict. This is part of why hugs can feel like a reset. It is also why infants thrive on care-giving touch. Their nervous systems are still learning what safety feels like, and contact helps teach the lesson. Touch does not have to be dramatic. Holding hands, a reassuring pat, or sitting close can do it. Consent matters, and so does context. Yet the underlying biology is powerful. Touch is a social signal that says you are not alone. Even self-touch can help. Placing a hand on your chest while you breathe can calm the body through the same pathways. It is not a trick, it is communication through the skin. When touch is supportive, your nervous system often responds with a softer world. Smells link strongly to emotion because scent pathways sit near memory circuits. A single scent can open a doorway to a whole scene. You smell sunscreen, and suddenly you are on a beach from childhood. You smell a certain soap, and you're back in a relative's home. Smell is unusual because its pathways connect closely with brain areas involved in emotion and memory. Unlike many senses, scent signals can reach these regions with fewer stops along the way. That shortcut may help explain why odor can trigger feelings so quickly, sometimes before you even name what you are smelling. This is also why scent can be used in mood rituals. People use peppermint for alertness, lavender for relaxation, and baking spices for comfort. Though individual responses vary, there is an important twist. If a smell is linked with a stressful memory, it can also bring anxiety. That is not weakness, it is learning. Your brain stored the association to protect you. You can create new links by pairing a scent with calm experiences, like reading, stretching, or a bedtime routine. Over time, the scent becomes a cue for a safer state. Alcohol can mimic happiness early, but it often rebounds as lower mood at first. Warm lift is not a mystery. Alcohol quickly dampens the brain's braking system, so worries feel farther away and conversation feels easier. It also boosts dopamine release in reward pathways, which can make the moment seem brighter than it really is. Then the body starts correcting. As alcohol is processed, stress systems rev up to restore balance. Sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. Even if you fall asleep fast the next day, can bring irritability, low mood, and a feeling of emotional flatness because the brain is recovering from that forced relaxation. People vary in sensitivity, yet the pattern is common. What feels like happiness can be a short chemical shortcut with a hidden bill. The most surprising part is how small amounts can affect the brain's emotional tuning, especially when used regularly. Social media can raise envy because we compare behind-the-scenes lives. Your brain is a comparison machine. It constantly asks, where do I stand? Social media turns that instinct into a non-stop highlight reel. You see celebrations, perfect angles, and exciting plans, while your own life includes laundry, doubt, and unfinished tasks, and mismatch can trigger envy, not because you are ungrateful, but because the brain treats social rank as survival relevant. Envy can quietly reshape perception. Your day seems dull, your progress seems slow, and your relationships seem less certain. Algorithms can intensify this by showing content that keeps attention hooked, which often means content that provokes emotion. The fix is not moral purity, it is awareness and design. Curate who you follow. Take breaks and notice how your body feels after scrolling. When you use social media to connect and create, it can support well-being. When you use it to measure yourself, it can drain you without warning. Serotonin helps regulate mood, appetite, and sleep, which shape daily well-being. Serotonin is not a happiness button. It is more like a regulator that helps the brain and body stay steady. It influences mood, yet it also shapes appetite, digestion, and the sleep-wake cycle. When those systems are off, mood often follows. That is why poor sleep can make everything feel heavier, and why unstable eating patterns can make the day feel emotionally noisy. Serotonin pathways also interact with anxiety and impulse control, which can affect how you respond to stress. A surprising amount of serotonin activity is connected to the gut, where it helps manage movement and signaling. This does not mean your stomach is thinking thoughts, but it does mean body rhythms matter for emotional life. Lifestyle choices like consistent sleep timing, regular meals, daylight exposure, and physical activity can support serotonin-related stability. Medication can help some people too, under medical guidance. Yet the larger story is balance. Mood is not separate from the body. It rides on it. Spending on experiences often beats spending on things for lasting satisfaction. Objects can be wonderful, yet experiences tend to keep giving in a different way. They become stories. They turn into shared jokes, photos, and memories that can be revisited for years. Experiences also shape identity. You do not just own a kayak trip. You become someone who tried it, and that sense of self can feel energizing. Another advantage is that experiences are harder to compare. A jacket invites comparison to every other jacket. A weekend with a friend is unique to you. Researching consumer psychology often finds that people anticipate experiences more, enjoy them more in the moment, and remember them with more warmth afterward. Even small experiences can work, like trying a new restaurant or taking a class together. This does not mean you should never buy things. It means that when you are buying happiness, you might be better off buying time, connection, and novelty rather than another item for the shelf. When life feels heavy, a good memory can be a portable light. Giving money away can feel better than receiving it. Across many countries, it sounds backward until you feel it. Giving can produce a warm lift that lingers, partly because it strengthens connection and meaning. Studies across multiple cultures have found that people often report greater happiness after spending money on others rather than on themselves. The effect can appear even with small amounts, which suggests it is not about generosity as a status symbol. It is about impact. When you give, you become an agent in someone else's day, and agency is emotionally powerful. Giving also shifts attention outward, which can reduce self-focused worry. There is a sweet spot The best giving tends to feel voluntary, personal, and aligned with your values. A thoughtful gift, a donation to a cause you care about, or paying for a friend's coffee can all work. The size is less important than the story you're telling your own brain. It can help. That message can be deeply stabilizing. Acts of love build trust, and trust is a deep happiness multiplier. Trust is the emotional equivalent of sturdy ground. When you trust someone, your body spends less energy scanning for threat you can relax into. Conversation, you can ask for help without fear of humiliation. Love builds that trust through repeated evidence. It is not only grand declarations. It is showing up on time. It is keeping a promise. It is listening without turning the moment into a debate. Over time, these small acts create a reliable pattern, and the nervous system loves reliability. Trust also changes conflict. When trust is high, a disagreement feels like a problem to solve together. When trust is low, the same disagreement feels like a danger signal. This is why trust can multiply happiness. It increases the pleasure of good moments, and it reduces the damage of hard ones. Trust can be repaired, yet repair requires consistency, not speeches. If you want to build happiness in a relationship, look for one small act of love you can repeat. Repetition is how trust becomes real. Jealousy can appear when connection feels threatened, not when love is absent. Jealousy often reminds us that something I value could be taken away. It is a protective alarm, and alarms can sound even in strong relationships. Your brain watches for signs of exclusion because belonging has always mattered for survival. A delayed reply, a new coworker, or a partner laughing with someone else can be enough to spark stories in the mind. The feeling is not proof of betrayal. It is proof that you care and that you feel uncertain. What matters is what you do next. Jealousy can push people toward checking, accusing, or withdrawing, which can create the very distance they fear. It can also become an invitation to ask for reassurance, clarity, and care. When jealousy is named without blame, it often loses power. It becomes information about needs, not a verdict about love. Holding a grudge keeps the body on alert, like a threat is present. A grudge is a memory with sharp edges. Each time you replay the event, your body can react as if it is happening again. Jaw tightens, stomach hardens, breathing gets shallower, and the mind searches for the winning argument that never arrived. This is not just drama, it is physiology. The brain's threat systems do not distinguish well between a real danger and a vividly imagined one. A grudge can become a daily workout for stress, and it drains energy that could be used for creativity, play, or rest. It can also distort perception. Neutral words start to sound hostile because you are already braced. Letting go does not mean excusing harm. It can mean choosing to stop feeding the loop. Some people find release through writing, therapy, or a conversation that ends with clear boundaries. The goal is simple. You deserve a nervous system that is not stuck in yesterday. Complaining can strengthen bonds briefly, but it can also train negativity. There is a reason complaining feels social. Shared frustration can create instant closeness, like two people huddling under the same umbrella. It signals I trust you with my real feelings. In small doses, it can be a bridge. It can validate experience and invite empathy. The problem is repetition. When complaining becomes a default, the brain starts scanning for new material to complain about. Attention narrows toward problems, and neutral events begin to feel irritating. Relationships can shift too. If every conversation is a list of grievances, people may feel drained or cautious. Complaining can also become a habit that blocks action. Talking replaces solving. A useful pivot is to add a second step after a complaint. Ask for support, ask for perspective, or name one small action you will take that keeps the connection and reduces the spiral. You can be honest about what hurts and still train your mind to notice what helps. Lifting heavy objects can increase confidence partly through embodied cues. Strength can change how you feel about yourself even before anything else in life improves. When you lift something heavy, you practice effort, control, and persistence in a way the body cannot ignore you. Feel your feet plant your grip, hold, and your breath support the move. That physical experience can translate into a psychological message: I can handle load. Researchers studying embodiment suggest that posture and physical action can influence emotion and self-evaluation. Strength training also offers clear feedback. The weight is either moved or it is not, and progress is visible over weeks. That clarity can be deeply satisfying. In a world full of vague goals, it can also change how you face discomfort. You learn that strain is not danger, it is information. Confidence grows when you repeatedly meet a challenge, respect your limits, and come back stronger. The real magic is not proving you are tough. It is building trust in your ability to adapt. Posture can influence mood because body signals shape brain interpretation. Your body is always sending your brain updates. Head down, shoulders rounded, breath shallow. Those cues can be read as defeat or threat. Upright posture, open chest, and steady breathing send a different message. It is not that posture creates happiness out of thin air. It can shift the starting conditions. Studies on embodiment suggest that expansive postures can increase feelings of confidence in some contexts, while slumped positions can increase self-focused worry. Posture also affects voice. When the chest is compressed, the voice can sound quieter and less resonant, which can change how others respond to you. Social feedback then loops back into mood. A simple experiment is to adjust posture before a difficult task. Place both feet on the floor, lengthen the spine, and let the shoulders fall back and down. Notice whether your thoughts become a little less catastrophic. It is a small liver, yet small livers matter. Mood is not only in the mind, it is in the stance you bring into the moment. Nostalgia can boost optimism, especially when life feels uncertain. Nostalgia is not just showing off old photos, it is a psychological resource. When people feel lonely, stressed, or unsure, nostalgic memories can restore a sense of continuity. They remind you that you have been loved, that you have survived change, and that good moments have been real. Research suggests nostalgia can increase feelings of social connection and meaning. It can also support optimism because it makes the future feel less like a blank void. The past becomes evidence that life contains warmth. Nostalgia often arrives through music, smells, and places. Because those cues carry emotional detail, there is a healthy way to use it. Choose memories that include resilience, not only perfection. Remember the friend who showed up, the teacher who believed in you, the day you found courage. Nostalgia becomes unhelpful when it turns into a story that the best is gone. The goal is not to live backward. It is to borrow strength from what has already been true. When the present feels shaky, nostalgia can say you have roots. Humor helps reframe problems, and reframing reduces emotional load. Humor is not denial, it is flexibility. When you laugh at a problem, you are often changing its frame, turning it from a threat into a story you can handle. That shift can reduce stress responses because your brain is no longer treating the situation as purely dangerous. Humor also creates distance. It gives you a few inches of space between you and the worry, which can be enough to choose a better response. In workplaces and families, humor can also signal safety. It says we are still connected even in chaos. There is skill in it. The best humor aims at the situation, not at a person's dignity. It can be a light exaggeration, a playful metaphor, or a shared inside joke that reminds everyone they are on the same team. People often assume humor is only for happy times. In reality, it is one of the tools that helps people climb out of hard times. A laugh is not the solution. It is the doorway back to perspective. Happiness rises with income up to a point, then other factors dominate. Money can buy relief, and relief is a powerful ingredient in well-being. When income covers basics, safe housing, healthcare, and the ability to handle surprises, stress drops fast after that. Extra income often changes comfort more than contentment. The mind adapts to upgrades, and soon the new normal stops feeling special. What starts to matter more is how you spend your days and who you spend them. With time, autonomy and belonging begin to outrank another level of luxury. This is why two people with the same salary can feel wildly different. One may have supportive relationships and meaningful routines, the other may feel trapped, isolated, and exhausted. Money still matters, yet its impact shifts from survival to choice. The happiest gains often come from using resources to buy time, reduce chronic stress, and protect the relationships that make life feel real. Feeling respected at work predicts happiness more than perks do. A fancy office snack can be nice, but respect changes the nervous system. When people feel valued, their brains stop bracing for humiliation. They speak up more easily, recover from mistakes faster, and spend less energy defending their worth. Respect also creates psychological safety, which means you can ask questions without fear and share ideas without being punished. That safety is fuel for creativity and learning. It is also a shield against burnout because it makes effort feel meaningful rather than exploited. Respect shows up in small moments. A manager listens and follows through. A coworker gives credit. A schedule is honored. When respect is missing, even high pay can feel like a bargain that costs you your dignity. Over time, disrespect can train the body to expect threat in every email and meeting. If you want to improve happiness at work, ask a simple question: do people feel seen as humans or treated as tools? Noise pollution can lower well-being even when you think you ignore it. Noise can live in the body even when the mind says I am used to it. Traffic, construction, and constant background sound can keep stress systems slightly activated like an alarm, but never fully turns off. Sleep is especially vulnerable. Even if noise does not wake you completely, it can fragment deep rest and leave the next day feeling heavier. Noise also steals attention. It forces the brain to filter, and filtering takes effort. Over time, that effort can become fatigue and irritability. The most interesting part is that people often adapt consciously, while their physiology does not. You may feel fine, yet your heart and hormones may be working harder than you realize. Quiet is not only absence of sound, it is a sense of control over sound. Simple changes can help, like sealing gaps using soft furnishings, or creating a brief daily pocket of quiet. A few minutes of true quiet can feel like finding oxygen in a crowded room. Green spaces in cities correlate with better mood and lower stress. A city park can look like decoration, yet it can function like emotional infrastructure. Green spaces offer visual patterns that the brain finds easier to process, which can reduce mental load. They also invite movement, which supports mood, and they create chances for casual social contact that builds belonging. Even short exposure can matter. Seeing trees from a window, walking under a canopy, or sitting near water can soften the feeling of being trapped in concrete. Researchers have linked access to green space with lower stress and improved well-being. Now, the reasons are likely mixed. Nature can reduce rumination, restore attention, and provide a sense of scale that shrinks everyday worries. Green spaces can also cool neighborhoods and reduce heat stress, which indirectly supports mood. The most poetic part is also practical. A patch of green offers a place to pause without needing to buy anything. It is a free invitation to breathe, look outward, and remember you are part of a larger living world. Volunteering can extend social life, which supports health and happiness. Volunteering often begins as giving, yet it quietly becomes receiving. It provides structure, purpose, and a rule where you are needed. Those roles create regular contact with other people, which is one of the strongest predictors of well-being. Many adults struggle to make friends because life has fewer built-in meeting places than school did. Volunteering solves it by creating a shared mission. You are not forced to impress anyone. You are side by side, doing something that matters. That shared effort can turn strangers into familiar faces, and familiar faces into friends. Volunteering can also strengthen identity. You become someone who contributes, and that can make hard days feel more meaningful. The benefits tend to be strongest when the work fits your values and your capacity over committing can backfire. The sweet spot is steady involvement that leaves you energized rather than drained. A small weekly shift can open a whole new social world. Loneliness can raise information markers, linking mood to immune function. Loneliness is not just an emotion, it can behave like a biological stressor. When the brain perceives social isolation, it may treat the world as less safe, and that perception can shift immune activity. Some studies link loneliness with increased inflammation, which matters because inflammation can influence energy, sleep, and mood. When the body feels inflamed, people often feel tired, flat, and less motivated to connect, which can deepen the cycle. This link helps explain why loneliness can feel physical, like heaviness in the chest or a constant fatigue. It also reframes connection as a health behavior, not a luxury. Small steps can matter. Regular contact with one supportive person, joining a group activity, or even caring for a pet can help rebuild a sense of belonging. The goal is not constant socializing, it is feeling that someone would notice if you disappeared. When that feeling returns, the body often relaxes its protective stance. Pets can reduce stress partly by providing steady companionship. A pet offers something rare. It offers presence without performance. Many animals respond to tone, routine, and touch in ways that make humans feel accepted. That acceptance can lower stress, especially after a difficult day with other people. Pets can also create structure. Feeding times, walks, and play pull you into regular rhythms, and rhythms support mood. To some people, a pet becomes a social bridge. Dogs invite conversation on sidewalks, and shared pet stories can connect strangers. Animals also invite a particular kind of attention. You watch ears perk, tails wag, and bodies relax. That observation can shift your own nervous system toward calm because you are reading safety cues. The relationship is not one-sided. Caring for a pet can create purpose, purpose stabilizes emotion. It is important to note that pets also bring responsibility and cost. Yet for many people, that responsibility feels like an anchor, and the companionship feels like a soft light that stays on. Singing together increases bonding, even when the singing is imperfect. Group singing can feel silly, and suddenly it feels powerful. Voices line up, breathing aligns, and a room of individuals begins to move like one organism. That synchrony is a bonding engine. When people act in rhythm, the brain registers cooperation, and cooperation signals safety. Singing also bypasses some social barriers. You do not need to be witty or impressive. You just need to join. In many cultures, singing is used for celebrations, mourning, and rituals because it turns feeling into shared sound. Even clumsy singing can work because the goal is participation, not perfection. People often report feeling closer after singing together, whether it is in a choir, at a stadium, or around a table. Singing can also change the body. It encourages deeper breathing and stronger acceleration, which can reduce tension. If you want a fast way to feel connected, sing with someone. The notes matter less than the shared moment. Rituals can create comfort because predictability signals safety to the brain. A ritual is a small, repeated sequence that tells your brain, this is a known path. That message is calming because uncertainty is expensive for the nervous system. When something is predictable, the brain can stop scanning and start resting. Rituals can be personal, like making tea the same way each night. They can be social, like a weekly meal with friends. They can be tiny, like 3 breaths before you open your email. The power is not superstition, it is structure. Rituals reduce decision fatigue, which frees energy for what matters. They also carry meaning. When a family repeats a tradition, the action becomes a signal of belonging. Even simple rituals can become emotional anchors during change. People often create rituals after loss because repetition can hold grief in a way that feels manageable. If life feels chaotic, try building one ritual that is easy to keep. Let it be small and reliable. Your brain will treat it like a handrail. Many languages split happiness into calm contentment and excited joy. Some languages treat happiness like a single bright light, but many divide it into different flavors. There is the steady kind that feels like your shoulders dropping at the end of a long day. Then there is the sparkling kind that makes you want to clap, dance, or call a friend. Linguists notice that communities often coin separate words for these states, which suggests people experience them as genuinely different. Strong contentment is linked with safety, sufficiency, and belonging. Excited joy is linked with novelty, achievement, and social celebration. When a language names both, it gives speakers a clearer emotional map. You can ask yourself which kind you are missing. If you crave excitement, you might need challenge or surprise. If you crave contentment, you might need rest or stability. Naming the difference can stop you from chasing the wrong remedy. Some cultures prioritize harmony, and happiness becomes a shared achievement. In places where harmony is a core value, happiness is not only a private mood, it is also a social atmosphere that people build together. Politeness, restraint, and taking others into account can be seen as ways of protecting the group from unnecessary friction. This can change what feels satisfying. Instead of chasing personal wins at any cost, people may aim for balanced cooperation and keeping relationships smooth. You can hear it in everyday choices, like how disagreement is expressed, how praise is shared, and how obligations are honored. There is a surprising upside. When happiness is understood as shared, it encourages people to notice other people's comfort, not only their own. There can be a downside too. When pressure to fit in makes someone hide real pain. The fascinating part is that happiness can be defined as something you do, not only something you feel. In harmony-focused cultures, joy is often the form of good citizenship. The ancient Greeks linked happiness to virtue, not to constant pleasure. When ancient Greek thinkers spoke about a good life, they often named beyond momentary pleasure. Philosophers like Aristotle described flourishing as living with excellence of character over time. That includes courage when fear is loud, fairness when selfishness would be easier, and wisdom when choices are confusing. In this view, happiness is a life you can respect even on days that feel hard. It is built through habits, not hunted like a feeling. That idea can sound strict until you notice what it offers. Pleasure arises and falls with weather, health, and luck. Virtue gives you something steadier to steer by. It turns daily life into a practice, like training a muscle in integrity. You become the kind of person who can meet life well. The Greeks were not against enjoyment. They were warning that a life devoted only to feeling good can become fragile. Flourishing, in their sense, was a deeper kind of satisfaction. Buddhists often describe happiness as freedom from craving, not endless delight. In many Buddhist traditions, suffering is linked to clinging. The mind grabs for what it wants, pushes away what it fears, and then exhausts itself in the struggle. Happiness is described less as a permanent high and more as release from that grip. Imagine enjoying a sunset without needing it to last. Imagine feeling sadness without adding the story that you are broken. This approach treats emotions like weather. Passing through the practice is not numbness, it is clarity. When craving softens, the nervous system stops arguing with reality all day long. Compassion grows too, because you see that other people are wrestling with the same grasping mind. Meditation is one path, but the idea can show up in ordinary moments. Now just the urge to refresh a screen, to win an argument, to be admired. Then try loosening it by 1 degree. That small freedom can feel like space in the chest, and space is often where peace begins. The word euphoria traces back to feeling well carried through life. The roots of euphoria reach back to Greek, but it pointed toward being well born or bearing well. That is a surprisingly grounded origin for a word we now use for intense highs. It hints at a broader idea. Feeling good is not only about fireworks. It can also be about feeling supported, steady, and able to carry what life asks of you. Over time, the word shifted towards strong pleasure, yet the older sense still feels wise. Some of the deepest happiness does not shout. It feels like life is moving with you rather than against you. Language often preserves these hidden histories, and they can change how you hear your own emotions. When you say you want happiness, do you mean excitement, relief, pride, belonging, or peace? The history of a word can remind you that well-being has many shapes. Sometimes the best kind is simply feeling that you are being carried, not dragged. Gratitude practices appear in many religions, long before modern psychology. Long before researchers ran experiments on journaling, spiritual traditions were already training attention toward appreciation. Prayers of thanks, harvest rituals, and daily acknowledgments appear across many faiths, which suggests a common human insight. When you deliberately notice what sustains you, your mind stops acting as if everything is missing. Gratitude also strengthens bonds because it points to interdependence. Food comes from soil labor and weather. Safety often comes from community love, comes from time given freely. Religious gratitude practices often use repetition for a reason. The brain learns through rehearsal. A single thank you can feel nice, but a pattern of thanks can reshape what your attention searches for. It can also soften entitlement, which is a quiet thief of joy. This does not mean gratitude should silence grief or injustice. Many traditions hold both lament and thanks in the same breath. The fascinating part is that ancient rituals often match what modern studies now measure. The practice is old because the human mind has always needed reminders. Festivals boost happiness partly by coordinating everyone's attention and behavior. A festival is not only entertainment, it is a giant act of synchronization. People gather, follow shared rhythms where certain colors eat specific foods and move through the same sequence of events. That coordination does something powerful to the brain. It reduces the feeling of being alone in your private world. When thousands of people sing a chorus or watch fireworks together, attention becomes collective, and collective attention can feel like belonging made visible. Festivals also create markers in time. They divide the year into chapters, which helps people feel the passage of life in a meaningful pattern. Many festivals include rituals of renewal, forgiveness, or gratitude, which can reset social relationships. Even anticipation plays a role, because planning and preparation build a sense of forward motion. After a festival, memories remain bright because they are tied to emotion, sound, and community. It is easy to dismiss festivals as noise and crowds. Underneath, they are social technology, and humans have been building them for thousands of years. For a reason, shared meals predict happiness across cultures, even with simple food. Shared meal is one of the oldest forms of social glue. It brings people into the same rhythm by pause, laugh, and conversation. Across many cultures, meals-aware news is exchanged, conflicts soften, and belonging is confirmed. The food does not need to be fancy. In fact, simple meals can feel even more intimate because they remove performance and invite comfort. Eating together also slows time. You sit down, you stay a while, and the body gets a break from rushing that matters for mood. Shared meals can also create rituals like a weekly dinner, which gives people something dependable to look forward to. In families, meals are often where children learn language, manners, and emotional cues. In friendships, meals create a safe stage for deeper talk without forcing it. There is a reason treaties and celebrations often end at a table. Sharing food is a quiet signal that says you are welcome here. Dancing can elevate mood because rhythm and movement entrain the body. Dance turns music into motion, and motion changes emotion. Rhythm can pull the nervous system into a steadier pattern, especially when movement matches the beat. This is called entrainment, and you can feel it when your foot stops tapping without permission. Dance also uses the whole body, which helps release physical tension stored in posture and breath. When people dance together, there is an added effect. Synchrony creates connection, even without words. That is why dance appears in celebrations, rites of passage, and community gatherings worldwide. Dance can also create a sense of agency. Your body is not only reacting to life, it is expressing, choosing, shaping space. For many people, it feels like freedom. You do not need choreography. A few minutes in your kitchen can shift your state because the brain responds to movement as evidence of vitality. If you want a simple experiment, put on a song you love and let your shoulders and hands join in. Mood often follows the body's lead. Babies smile early, which helps adults bond and keep them safe. Before a baby can speak, they can already recruit the entire room with one small expression. Early smiles appear in the first months, and they are not only cute, they are a powerful signal that pulls adults closer. When caregivers see a smile, many instinctively mirror it, lean in, and use a warmer voice. That response increases attention and care, which matters because human infants are helpless for a long time. Smiling also becomes a training loop. The baby learns that connection is available, and the caregiver learns that their effort is landing. Even in exhausted homes, a single grim can reset the emotional climate for a moment. Over time, these micro moments build attachment. Attachment becomes a foundation for exploring the world and returning to safety. A baby's smile is small, yet it can organize an entire household around protection and love. Children laugh far more than adults. Showing play is a mood engine. Listen to a playground, and you will hear a very different emotional economy. Children laugh easily because their days contain more play, and play is not a luxury for the developing brain. It is how children test ideas, practice social rules, and learn what their bodies can do. Laughter often arrives when something unexpected happens, like a silly sound or a pretend surprise. That surprise teaches flexibility. It says I can be startled and still be safe. Play also builds connection. Kids use jokes, games, and shared make-believe to form alliances quickly. Adults tend to treat players optional, which can dry up laughter without anyone noticing. The child brain invites it constantly, then rewards it with delight. There is a lesson hiding here. If you want more happiness, add more play-like moments. Make a game of chores, tell a harmless joke, or try something purely for fun. The nervous system remembers how to lighten when it is given permission. Teen happiness is tightly linked to belonging. Because identity is forming during adolescence, the social world turns up in volume. The brain becomes more sensitive to peer approval, and that sensitivity is not vanity, it is development. Teens are building identity, and identity needs feedback. Belonging tells a teen, there is a place for you. Without that, the mind can treat everyday interactions as high-stakes threats. A look, a laugh, or a silence can feel enormous. This is also why friendships in adolescence can feel intense and all-consuming. They are helping shape values, tastes, and self-respect. Belonging can come from many places. It can be a sport, a club, a band, a study group, or a single trusted friend. Adults can support teen happiness by offering steady warmth without control, and by taking their social pain seriously. For a teen, belonging is not a side story. It is a central pillar of well-being. In older adulthood, happiness often rises again as priorities simplify. Many people expect happiness to decline with age, yet surveys often show a different curve. After midlife, reported well-being can rise for many adults. One reason is that priorities become clearer. Time feels more finite, so energy is spent more carefully. People may choose relationships that feel supportive, and they may let go of status battles that once mattered. Emotional regulation can improve too. Older adults often get better at avoiding unnecessary conflict and focusing on what feels meaningful. This does not erase grief, illness, or loss. It means that many people become more skilled at protecting peace when peace is available. There is also a shift in what counts as a good day. Small pleasures can matter more, and comparison can matter less. The future may feel less like a proving ground and more like a place for presence. Aging can bring limits, yet it can also bring a quieter wisdom about what is worth wanting. Love changes the brain, increasing attention to a partner's signals. Falling in love can feel like a spotlight turning on. A partner's face becomes easier to notice in a crowd, and their voice can cut through noise. This is not only romance, it is attention being reallocated. Brain systems involved in reward and motivation can become tuned toward a loved person's cues, which helps explain why their approval feels so potent. Love also reshapes memory. Details about a partner's preferences, stories, and moods can become unusually sticky over time. Long-term love can shift from thrill to attachment, where safety and trust become central. That attachment can change stress responses. A supportive partner can make challenges feel more manageable because the brain expects help. Love can also amplify sensitivity. Small changes in tone can feel meaningful because the bond makes signals important. The fascinating part is that love is not only a feeling, it is a set of brain predictions about connection, reward, and safety built through repeated experience. Being heard can reduce stress, even if the problem remains unsolved. There is a physical relief that comes when someone truly listens. Your shoulders can drop before any advice is given. Feeling heard tells the nervous system that you are not facing the world alone and that your experience makes sense to another person. That social validation can reduce stress responses even when the situation cannot be fixed quickly. It also helps the mind organize thoughts. When you speak to an attentive listener, you often find the threat of what matters confusion becomes clearer, and clarity is calming. Being heard is not the same as being agreed with, it is being understood. Good listeners reflect back what they are hearing, ask questions that invite depth, and avoid rushing to solutions. In therapy, this is part of why simply telling the story can be healing. It turns isolated pain into shared knowledge. Sometimes the most powerful help is not a plan, it is presence that says, "I am with you." Listening well predicts relationship happiness more than clever advice does. Advice can be tempting, especially when you want to fix someone's discomfort. Yet relationships often thrive on a different skill. Listening well means you stay curious about the other person's inner world. You ask what they feel, what they need, and what the moment means to them. You do not treat their problem as a puzzle you must solve. This matters because many conflicts are not about facts, they're about feeling unseen or dismissed. When a partner feels listened to, they tend to feel respected. Respect makes repair possible. Listening also reduces misunderstanding because you check your assumptions before they harden. It can be as simple as summarizing what you heard and asking if you got it right. In close relationships, good listening becomes a kind of daily maintenance. It prevents small resentments from growing teeth. Clever advice can sometimes land as criticism. Good listening lands you as care. Care is the soil where long-term happiness grows. Apologies work best when they name harm and show repair. A true apology is not a performance. It is a bridge built from specific words. When an apology clearly names what happened, the injured person feels reality has been acknowledged. That matters because harm often includes a second wound, which is denial or minimization. A strong apology also names impact. It recognizes how the other person was affected, not just what the speaker intended. Then it moves into repair. Repair can be a plan, a changed behavior, or a concrete offer to make things right. Without repair, an apology can feel like a request to move on quickly. Timing matters too. A rushed apology can feel like pressure, while a thoughtful one can feel like respect. Apologies also work best without excuses. Explanations can come later if they are needed. First comes ownership. The surprising part is that good apologies do not shrink the person giving them. They often increase trust because they show integrity. In many relationships, the ability to repair matters more than never making mistakes. Compassion meditation can increase warmth towards strangers and reduce reactivity. Compassion meditation trains the mind to practice care on purpose. Instead of waiting until kindness happens naturally, you rehearse it like a skill. Many practices begin with someone easy to love, then widen outward. You may include a friend, a neutral person, and eventually someone difficult. The goal is not to approve of bad behavior. The goal is to reduce automatic hostility and to remember shared humanity. Studies have linked compassion-based training with increased feelings of connection and pro-social behavior in some people. It can also reduce reactivity because the mind is less quick to interpret others as threats. Over time, compassion can become a default lens. That lens changes daily life. A stranger's rudeness becomes less personal, and a stressed coworker looks more like a tired human than an enemy. Compassion meditation is also protective. When you practice warmth, you often soften self-contempt too. That can make happiness more reachable because inner life becomes less combative. Mindfulness can reduce emotional turbulence by strengthening attention control. Emotional turbulence often begins with a simple event, then the mind adds fuel. A small mistake becomes a story about failure. A tense message becomes a prediction of rejection. Mindfulness trains a different sequence. You notice sensations, thoughts, and feelings as they arise, and you practice returning attention to something steady like breath or sound. That return is not passive. It is attention control. Over time, attention becomes less easily hijacked by spirals. This does not remove emotion. it changes your relationship to it. You can feel anger without immediately acting from it. You can feel sadness without stacking extra fear on top. Many people also report increased ability to savor because they actually notice good moments as they occur. Mindfulness can be practiced in ordinary life. Feel water on your hands while washing dishes. Listen to footsteps while walking. Notice your jaw, then release it. Small moments of noticing command up to a calmer internal climate. When attention is steadier, emotions move through more cleanly. Flow states feel joyful because challenge and skill meet at balance. You know the feeling when time disappears and your mind stops arguing with itself. That is flow. It often arrives when a task is hard enough to demand focus, yet not so hard that it crushes you. Rock climbers talk about it on a route that fits their ability. Musicians feel it when a piece is just within reach. Even cleaning can become flow. When you set a clear goal and move steadily in flow, self-consciousness quiets because attention is fully occupied. The brain stops checking how you look or how you are doing. It simply does. That is why flow can feel like relief. It replaces noisy rumination with purposeful motion. Flow also builds confidence because you experience yourself as capable in real time. You cannot need a perfect life to find flow. You need a task with clear feedback, a goal you can measure, and a willingness to stay with it long enough for the world to narrow. Playfulness predicts happiness in couples, even during stressful periods. Playfulness is not childishness. It is a way of saying we are on the same team. In couples, playful teasing, shared jokes, and silly rituals can act like emotional glue during stress. That glue matters. He gives the relationship moments of lightness that remind both people they are more than their problems. Playfulness also helps with repair. A tender joke after a tense moment can lower defenses, making it easier to apologize or listen. It can even change how conflict feels. Instead of a courtroom, the relationship becomes a workshop. You are figuring it out together. Playfulness often shows up in tiny gestures, like an exaggerated bow when you hand someone their keys or a funny nickname that only you use. The power is in repeated cues of safety. Couples who keep play alive often keep curiosity alive too, and curiosity is what prevents partners from becoming strangers in the same house. People feel happier when they act in line with personal values. Happiness is often treated like a mood that arrives from the outside, yet many people describe a deeper satisfaction that comes from living in a way that fits their values. Values are not goals. Goals can be completed. Values are directions like honesty, generosity, learning, or courage. When you act in line with them, your life feels more coherent. Coherence is calming. It reduces the inner conflict of doing one thing while believing another. Values also help with hard choices. When you know what matters most, decisions become less tangled. You may still feel fear, but you feel less confusion. Researchers in acceptance and commitment therapy emphasize values for this reason. They provide meaning even when emotions are messy. A person can be anxious and still feel proud of how they behaved. That pride can support happiness in a steady way. If you want to test this, choose one small value-driven action today. Send the apology, do the workout, or help someone without being asked. Notice how it changes your self-respect. Excess choice can reduce happiness because decisions become heavier. Choice sounds like freedom, yet too much of it can feel like quicksand. When options multiply, the brain has to compare endlessly, and comparison is exhausting. You may fear picking wrong because every option represents a future you could miss. This is called the paradox of choice, and it can lead to decision paralysis or regret. Even after you choose, you may keep imagining the better path you did not take. That imagined path can steal satisfaction from the real one. This shows up in shopping, dating, streaming shows, and even choosing what to cook. The more options, the more your mind searches for perfection. A simple workaround is to set limits. Choose from 3 options, not 30. Give yourself a time cap. Decide what matters most, like price, quality, or time, and ignore the rest. Another approach is to become a satisfizer rather than a maximizer. satisfies us, pick something good enough, and move on. That habit protects happiness because it protects attention. A clear goal improves mood because progress is measurable and rewarding. When you wake up with a vague intention to be better, the day can feel slippery. A clear goal changes that it gives your brain a target, and the brain loves targets because they organize attention. You stop scanning everything and you start moving towards something. Clear goals also create measurable progress, and progress is emotionally nourishing. It is a signal that your actions matter. Even small goals can shift mood, like writing one page, washing the dishes, or walking for 10 minutes. The key is clarity. Workout is fuzzy, do 3 sets of squats is concrete. Clarity also reduces anxiety because uncertainty shrinks. You know what the next step is. In teams, clear goals can lift morale for the same reason. People can coordinate and feel useful if you feel stuck. Your mood may not need inspiration first. It may need a target. Choose a goal that is specific, realistic, and within your control. Then begin. The mood boost often follows the first action, not the first thought. Small wins build momentum, and momentum feels like hope in motion. A small win is a tiny proof that you can influence your world. It could be replying to one email, making the bed, or practicing a skill for 5 minutes on its own. It seems minor, yet the brain responds to completion with a reward signal that encourages repetition. That is how momentum starts. Momentum also changes identity. You stop being someone who is stuck, and you become someone who is moving. That shift can be more powerful than the task itself. Small wins are especially useful when you are overwhelmed because big goals can trigger avoidance. The nervous system sees the mountain and freezes. A small step feels safer. Then the next step is easier. Over time, the steps accumulate into a path. Momentum is not constant motivation. It is a pattern of action that makes motivation less necessary. There is also a social element. When people see you making small progress, they often respond with encouragement, and that encouragement can strengthen the loop. If you want more hope, do one small thing that proves the day can change. Let that be your first win. Hope is not optimism, it is planning plus belief in pathways. Optimism is expecting things to turn out well. Hope is more practical. Psychologists who study hope describe it as having goals, believing you can find routes toward them, and believing you can take steps along those routes. In other words, hope is about pathways and agency. That is why hopeful people can still feel sad or afraid. They are not pretending everything is fine. They are building a map. Hope also tends to survive setbacks better than optimism because it includes flexibility. If one route closes, you look for another, you adjust. This is why teaching hope can matter in schools, coaching, and therapy. You can strengthen it by setting a goal that matters, breaking it into steps, and identifying backup plans. Even writing down 2 alternative routes can increase the feeling that you are not trapped. Hope also grows when you notice past evidence of your own problem solving. Remember a time you adapted, learned, or recovered. That memory is proof of agency. Hope is not a mood that arrives, it is a skill you can practice. Anxiety and excitement share body signals, and interpretation can flip them. Anxiety and excitement can feel almost identical in the body. Heartbeat quickens, hands get warmer, and thoughts speed up. The difference is often the story your brain tells about those signals. In anxiety, the story is "this is danger, I might fail." In excitement, the story is "this is energy, I am ready." Researchers call this reappraisal, and it can change performance in stressful situations. People who tell themselves they are excited sometimes perform better on tasks, like public speaking, because the energy becomes usable rather than threatening. This does not mean you can talk yourself out of every fear. It means your body is giving you arousal, not a label, you supply the label. A helpful practice is to name the sensation without judgment and choose a frame that supports action. Say, "My body is gearing up." Then add one concrete step, like slowing your exhale or grounding your feet. The goal is not to eliminate arousal. It is to steer it toward courage. Naming emotions can reduce their intensity by engaging language networks. When an emotion hits, it can feel like being carried by a wave. Naming it can act like a handheld. Research on affect labeling suggests that putting feelings into words can reduce activity in brain regions linked with threat while increasing activity in regions linked with regulation and meaning. In plain terms, language can help the brain organize what is happening. Instead of being pure chaos, it becomes something you can understand. The label matters bad is too vague, embarrassed, lonely, or resentful gives the mind a clearer target. That clarity can reduce reactivity because you are no longer fighting an invisible opponent. Naming emotions can also improve communication. When you can say, "I feel disappointed," you give others a chance to respond appropriately. This practice works best when it is simple and honest, not dramatic. You are not trying to sound wise, you are trying to become clear. A good habit is to pause and name the feeling in one word, then name what you need. That turns emotion into information. Self-compassion lowers shame, which often blocks happiness from returning. Shame is a heavy emotion because it attacks the self, not the behavior. It says, "I am bad," rather than "I did something I regret." When shame is loud, people often hide, isolate, or give up, which makes happiness harder to reach. Self-compassion interrupts that cycle. It acknowledges pain without adding cruelty. It also separates identity from mistake. You can say, "That was not my best," without concluding you are unworthy. Research suggests that self-compassion is linked with greater resilience and healthier motivation. People who treat themselves with kindness after failure are often more willing to try again because the attempt no longer threatens their dignity. Self-compassion also supports connection. When you are not drowning in shame, you can apologize, repair, and return to relationships. There is a simple way to practice it. Notice the harsh inner voice, then ask what you would say to a friend in the same situation. Say that to yourself with the same sincerity. This is not indulgence. It is the emotional safety that makes growth possible. Random acts of kindness lift mood for both giver and receiver. Kindness creates a double brightening. The receiver feels seen and supported, and the giver often feels a warm surge of meaning. Researchers call this the helper's high, and it can show up after surprisingly small gestures. Hold a door when someone's hands are full. Leave a sincere note for a coworker. Pay for a stranger's snack. These moments work because they change the story of the day. The world becomes a little safer, and your role in it becomes active rather than helpless. Kindness also spreads. When someone is treated well, they are more likely to pass it on to the next person. That ripple can transform a whole environment, like a classroom, a workplace, or a family dinner. The best part is that kindness does not require perfection or charisma. It only requires noticing someone else and choosing to add ease to their day. Compliments feel stronger when they are specific and earned. A compliment lands best when it feels true enough to trust. You're amazing can be sweet, yet he can slide off the mind like water. A specific compliment has weight. You explained that clearly when everyone was confused. You kept your promise when it would have been easy to cancel. Specific praise tells the brain what is valued, which makes it feel safer to believe. It also strengthens identity. You are not being admired as a vague idea. You are being recognized for a real action. And compliments can even change behavior because people naturally repeat what gets noticed. There is also a social effect. Specific compliments deepen relationships since they prove you are paying attention. They can repair a tense day faster than advice because appreciation lowers defenses. If you want to give a powerful compliment, focus on effort, character, or impact, then say it plainly and let it breathe. Spending time in silence can improve well-being if it feels safe. Silence is not empty. It is a different kind of input, and the brain can use it to reset. When the environment is quiet, attention is no longer pulled in 100 directions. Thoughts can settle, breathing can slow, and the body can stop bracing for interruption. For many people, silence is soothing. For others, silence can feel threatening if it brings up memories or loneliness. That is why safety matters. Safe silence is chosen, and it has boundaries. It might be 5 minutes with a warm drink, a quiet walk, without headphones, or a brief pause before sleep. In that space, you may notice details you usually miss, like tension in the jaw or an emotion hiding under business. Silence can also improve listening because it trains you to tolerate pauses without rushing to fill them. If silence feels uncomfortable, stops more. Let it be short, predictable, and paired with something steady, like a candle or a soft chair. Curiosity predicts happiness because it turns uncertainty into an invitation. Uncertainty can feel like danger when the brain treats the unknown as a threat. Curiosity flips the meaning. Instead of "I do not know," and that is bad, it becomes "I do not know," and that is interesting. That shift can change everything. Curiosity pulls attention outward, which reduces self-focused worry. It also creates energy because the brain loves learning patterns and closing gaps. Curiosity can make ordinary life feel larger. A question turns a street into a story, a stranger into a mystery, and a problem into a puzzle. It can also improve relationships. When you stay curious during conflict, you ask what someone meant rather than assuming the worst. That can prevent small misunderstandings from becoming permanent distance. Curiosity does not require intelligence or special knowledge. It requires a willingness to wonder. If you want a simple practice, pick one everyday thing and ask one new question about it. Why does this song move me? What is this tree called? What would make this task easier? Questions can be tiny doors into a brighter mind. Creativity can bring joy because it converts feelings into form. Creativity is emotional alchemy. It takes something invisible, like longing, anger, or awe, and turns it into something you can see, hear, or hold. That transformation can be deeply satisfying because it gives the mind a sense of agency. You are not only feeling you are shaping creativity, also makes experience meaningful. Sketch a poem, a recipe, or a simple craft can turn a messy day into a story with a beginning and an end. It is not about talent, it is about expression. Children create freely because they have not yet learned to fear judgment. Adults often stop because they think creativity requires permission. It does not. Creativity can be private, small, and imperfect. In fact, imperfection is often where the liveliest choices appear. If you want to invite creative joy, choose a medium that feels low stakes. Doodle while you listen to music. Write a short paragraph for nobody. Rearrange a room. When feelings become form, they often become lighter to carry. Humor in hardship can protect happiness without denying reality. Hard times can shrink the world until it feels like nothing exists beyond the problem. Humor reopens the room. It does not erase pain, yet it gives the mind a different angle. A laugh can break the spell of helplessness, if only for a moment. That moment matters. It gives the nervous system a break from constant tension, and it reminds you that you still have flexibility. In hospitals and disaster zones, and in difficult family situations, people often use humor as a survival tool. It builds connection, and connection helps people endure. The healthiest humor does not aim at someone's dignity. It aims at the absurdity of the situation or at the shared human experience of being imperfect. Humor can also be gentle self-kindness. It says, "This is hard, and I am still here." If you want to use humor as protection, look for something small that is safely funny. A silly phrase, a harmless exaggeration, or a shared inside joke can be enough to let the heart unclench. Micro breaks improve mood because attention needs gentle recovery. Tension is not an endless resource. It tires like a muscle. And when it is overworked, everything can start to feel more irritating. Micro breaks are short pauses that give the brain a chance to reset. They can be as small as standing up, stretching your hands, looking out a window, or taking 3 slow breaths before the next task. These breaks help because they interrupt stress buildup. They also prevent mental fatigue from turning into emotional fatigue. When you are tired, small problems seem larger and patience runs thin. A micro break can restore the ability to choose your response rather than react. The best micro breaks are simple and repeatable. They do not require a special place or a long time. They also work better when they are scheduled, not only taken when you are already overwhelmed. If you want a practical approach, attach a micro break to something you already do, like after each email batch, or after each meeting. Tiny recoveries can protect the whole day. Deep rest can restore pleasure because fatigue dulls reward systems. When you are exhausted, even good things can feel muted. Food tastes flatter, jokes land softer, and music sounds less alive. This is not a moral failure, it is biology. Fatigue changes how the brain processes reward and motivation, pushing it toward survival mode rather than delight. Deep rest helps restore the ability to feel pleasure because it gives the nervous system time to repair and recalibrate. Deep rest can include sleep, but it can also include true downtime while awake, lying down with eyes closed, a slow bath, quiet hour without demands. The key is that the body is not bracing for the next task. Many people struggle with rest because they treat it as something to earn. Yet pleasure is not only a reward, it is a signal that you have enough resources to engage with life. When you protect deep rest, you protect your future capacity for joy. If you feel emotionally flat, consider the simplest explanation first. You might need restoration, not inspiration. Being outdoors after waking can improve mood by anchoring circadian timing. Morning light is a powerful time cue. When you step outside after waking, your eyes deliver a clear message to the brain. Day has started. Bad signal helps set the timing of alertness, appetite, and later sleepiness. When timing is stable, mood often becomes more stable too. Many people notice they feel more awake, more focused, and less emotionally reactive when their days begin with light and air rather than screens and indoor dimness. Outdoor mornings also offer sensory grounding. Cool air on skin, bird song, the look of the sky. Those inputs can pull attention out of worry and into the present. You do not need a long walk. Even a few minutes on a balcony, at a window, or on a doorstep can help. The habit becomes especially useful during darker seasons when the brain's clock can drift. If you want a simple ritual, combine outdoor light with a small action like stretching or sipping water. You are not only starting the day, you are setting its rhythm. Drinking water can improve mood when dehydration quietly amplifies stress. Mild dehydration can be sneaky. You may not feel thirsty, yet the body can still be short on fluid. When that happens, energy can dip, headaches can appear, and irritability can rise. The brain interprets bodily strain as a reason to feel less patient and more tense. That makes sense. From a survival perspective, if resources are low, the system becomes more vigilant. Hydration supports circulation and temperature regulation, which helps the body feel steadier. It also supports concentration, and better focus can make problems feel less chaotic. Water will not solve every mood issue, but it can remove a hidden weight. A practical clue is timing. If you wake up foggy, feel edgy during the afternoon, or struggle to focus, a glass of water can be a simple experiment. Pair it with a routine like after brushing your teeth or before your first coffee. Many people discover that what felt like emotional fragility was partly a basic physical need asking to be met. Gut microbes can influence mood through immune signals and nerve pathways. Your gut is home to trillions of microbes, and they are not silent passengers. They produce compounds that can affect inflammation. They interact with the immune system, and they communicate with the brain through networks like the vagus nerve. When the gut environment is irritated, the body can shift into a more defensive state, and that state can change mood, energy, and motivation. Researchers have even observed that certain bacterial patterns are associated with differences in stress response. This does not mean a single probiotic will cure sadness or that happiness is hiding in yogurt. It means your mental life is partly built from body signals. Food quality, sleep, stress, and medication can all reshape the microbiome, which may shift how you feel over time. It is a reminder that mood is not only thoughts, it's chemistry, immunity, and a whole inner ecosystem. Negotiating daily life. Chronic stress shrinks pleasure because the brain prioritizes survival scanning. When stress stays high for a long time, the brain starts acting like danger is the default. Attention becomes tuned toward threats, problems, and what could go wrong next. In that state, pleasure can feel distant, not because life has no good moments, but because The nervous system is not registering them fully. Reward systems can become less responsive, and the body can hold tension like armor. Even rest can feel uneasy, because vigilance has become a habit. This is why chronic stress can look like emotional numbness. People often say, "I should be happy," yet nothing lands. Path back is rarely a single breakthrough. It is often a slow lowering of the baseline alarm through safety support sleep and repeated moments of recovery. When the brain stops scanning for danger, it has more capacity to notice beauty, humor, and connection. Pleasure returns when survival mode loosens its grip. Lifting someone else up can reduce your own distress through connection. When you encourage someone else, something shifts in you too. Your attention moves away from your own looping thoughts and toward another person's real life. That outward focus can reduce rumination, and it can soften the sense of being trapped in your own head. Support also creates connection, and connection is one of the fastest ways to calm the nervous system. A kind message can become a shared moment of meaning, even if you are both struggling. There is also an identity effect. When you act as a helper, you remind yourself that you still have something to offer. That sense of usefulness can be deeply stabilizing during hard seasons. Helping does not need to be dramatic. You can praise effort, send a thoughtful link, or show up for a friend's small goal. The key is sincerity and presence. When you lift someone, you often find your own footing. At the same time, people remember peaks and endings, so a good finish boosts happiness. Your memory does not archive life evenly. It often highlights the most intense moments and the way an experience ends. This is why a trip with one stunning day can feel better in hindsight than a trip that was consistently fine. It is also why a meal can be remembered for its final bite. Psychologists call this pattern the peak end rule, and it shapes how we judge our own lives. You can use it on purpose, end the conversation with warmth, finish your work session with one small success, close the day with a comforting ritual that tells your brain, "We are safe now." This does not mean you should chase constant highs. It means endings deserve care because they become emotional bookmarks. Even a difficult day can feel more survivable if it ends with a moment of closure, gratitude, or connection. The finish line matters more than we think. True happiness tolerates sadness because emotions are meant to move. Many people think happiness means never feeling low, yet that is a recipe for fear. If you treat sadness as failure, you and shame on top of pain, a healthier form of happiness leaves room for the full range of emotion. Sadness can be a signal of lost love or change. It can slow you down long enough to notice what matters. When sadness is allowed, it often passes more cleanly when it is fought. It can linger as tension, numbness, or irritability. True well-being is not a constant smile. It is the ability to feel deeply without being destroyed by feeling. It is also the ability to return after tears. You can still laugh. After disappointment, you can still plan. This flexibility is a kind of strength. It says, "I can carry life as it is." Happiness becomes less fragile when it stops demanding perfection from your inner weather. Joy often arrives after effort because accomplishment changes self-belief. There is a particular joy that arrives when you finish something hard. It is not only relief, it is a shift in how you see yourself. When you work toward a goal and completed, your brain updates its model of your capability. You become someone who follows through. That identity change can create joy that lasts longer than the task itself. Effort also creates meaning. A goal you earn tends to feel more personal than a reward that simply appears. Even small accomplishments can spark this effect, like learning a song, training for a walk, or building a simple habit. The process teaches patience, and patience makes joy easier to hold. It also teaches that discomfort can be part of growth rather than a sign to quit. This is why joy often shows up at the end of a climb. You needed the climb to make the view feel real. Accomplishment does not guarantee happiness, but it can build the kind of confidence that happiness likes to live inside. Simple order in your space can calm the brain's threat detection. Clutter is not only visual, it can feel like unfinished business when your environment is chaotic. The brain keeps noticing small signals that something is out of place, and that can add low-level stress without you realizing it. Order can do the opposite. A clear surface, a made bed, or a tidy corner can signal completion and control. That signal can calm threat detection because the brain reads order as evidence that life is manageable. Order also reduces friction. When you can find your keys, your morning starts with fewer jolts. The goal is not perfection or a magazine house. It is creating one area that feels steady. Some people find it helpful to reset a room at the end of the day, like closing a book. Others pick one small habit, like clearing the table after dinner. Over time, a space can become a cue for calm. It is hard to relax in an environment that keeps shouting something is wrong. A little order can change that message. Happiness grows when you notice it because attention shapes experience. Your brain builds reality from what it highlights. If attention is glued to problems, life can feel like a string of threats. If attention includes what is working, life can feel more spacious. Noticing happiness does not mean ignoring hardship. It means allowing good moments to register fully. Many people experience something pleasant, then immediately move on as if joy needs no care. Yet joy can fade quickly when it is not attended to. When you notice it, you give it time to settle into memory. He also teaches the brain that positive cues matter. This can change future perception because the brain searches for what it expects to find. A simple practice is to pause for a few seconds when something feels good. Notice what your body feels like. Notice what made the moment possible. That small pause can turn a passing spark into warmth that lasts. Happiness is not only in events, it is in the way your mind meets them. As we come to the end of our journey through happiness, notice what your mind is holding now, not a single definition, but a whole constellation. Happiness as connection that can spread from person to person. Happiness as gratitude that redirects attention toward what supports you. Happiness as meaning that can stay steady, even when life is not. We wandered through the body too, through sleep and sunlight, movement and breath, the quiet influence of your inner rhythms. We touched the social world where being heard can soften stress, where trust makes love feel like solid ground, and where a simple thank you can strengthen a bond. And now you can let all of that knowledge settle like snow globe glitter, drifting down through clear water. If you enjoyed this sleepy exploration, you might like to tap like or subscribe or leave a small comment about what happiness means to you right now. It helps this channel reach other listeners who need a calm place to land. If you are still awake, there will be another video waiting for you on the screen. You can let it carry you onward, or you can choose to rest here with nothing else to do. Allow your shoulders to loosen, let your tongue rest in your mouth, unclench your jaw, and let your breathing find a slower pace with each exhale. Imagine your day becoming lighter, as if it is being set down beside the bed. Thoughts can come and go without needing your attention. You do not have to solve anything tonight. You only have to be here safe enough to soften. Sleep well and good night.